I always said that this was my cold dead hands bike, and I nearly wasn't sure I'd ever see the day that I would sell it, but I think it's time. I've had it for 15 years. It started my whole journey with the CBXs, and it's been a wonderful bike, and I've gotten so much enjoyment out of it. I brought it to shows, and it's been my ambassador at any greeting of any motorcycle people, and everyone's got a story about, their impression of the CBX and when they first saw one and they almost bought one and they had one. And, it's a bike like not many others in terms of what it will, your passport into a group of motorcyclists. People really, really enjoy these bikes, and so have I. So I bought this bike in 2008, and it was my first CBX. It was not the first bike I restored. I'd restored a GT 750 some years earlier, and that nearly cured me of ever wanting to do it again, but not quite. And I bought this bike in 2008 from a gentleman not far from where I lived in Massachusetts at the time. And it was under a tarp, but it was all there. It was pretty solid, but it was just really, really tired. Hadn't been run for years, and he'd kind of had a young family and realized he wasn't going to get to it. So he sold it with a tinge of regret, but he was happy to know it was going to be restored. And in fact, he and I have remained friends, and he likes looking in on it now and then and seeing that it's being enjoyed. This is not a bike for a purist. I've done way too many things that horrify them on this project. Many of them are unabashedly way better than the original stock bike, and some of them are just different because I liked it that way. And so, if you're into these for some pure representation of what the bike was in 1980, this is not your bike. But if you want to ride one and have one that's really upgraded in really meaningful ways, this is a great bike. I'll go into some of what I did that was non-standard, but you can see quite a lot of it just as I walk around. So it was frame off. It got down to every atom pretty much when I did it, and this engine was soda blasted and painted. That was done about, now it's almost 15 years when that was done, and it still looks great. It's a teeny bit, I don't even know if you'd call that yellowing. It just kind of looks like an original bike at this point. There are some, super small spots where you can see a teeny bit of cracking. Mike Nixon built these carbs all the way back when, and he polished the caps at the time. They're starting to show a little bit of patina. They could be tarted up. Some of the powder coat, like on this bracket up here, is starting to, pucker. A lot of it's really great. This was also done to a higher than stock finish. That's just a straight polish. There's no clear coat. It could be, it's starting to get a little bit of aluminum patina. So an hour with a can of Solvol or something would make that great again. This is Sport Kit footrests, and this was a kind of a tricky thing to reassemble from different pieces for different bikes. But this is moves the foot pegs back a little bit, and the telltale is this position of the brake spindle. And so all the parts were assembled or given or sold to me by the crew on the cbxclub.com ICOA site. Among the modifications the bike has that make it non-stock, it has Dyna ignition. That's a telltale, that gray wire. So it doesn't have the igniters. It also has some coil bypass work that I really like to do that takes the full charging voltage from the battery straight to the coils. So, you sometimes will see as much as 2 volts of voltage drop to the coils, and this kind of does away with that. I'm just going to pull this out without breaking it. Okay, there we go. So here's some non-stock wiring. I got rid of that horrible fusible link, and put it in ATC fuse, much heavier wiring, and this goes to a standard Bosch relay, which then powers the coil. So the coil gets full charging voltage, and the connectors are missing because the Dyna doesn't use the igniters that usually live under here beneath the regulator rectifier. Bike charges at idle, unlike many of these. Other deviations from stock, or original, I should say, or either. This is the B seat. It's a Honda seat. Honda sold these new old stock for a while as replacements. It's a different seat cover pattern. It's more comfortable. And I added the seat trim because it didn't come on that when Honda sold the replacement seats. They came without the trim, but decided I wanted it, so I added it. This is a twin pot brake. This one I think came from a Pro Link, and you can see there's some little flex in the finish there. Rotor from I think a 900F. That swing arm is also non-standard. That swing arm is from a CB 1100F along with its adjusters, and that is a stiffer, lighter part. It's a teeny bit wider. Had a wider tire on it for a while. I don't anymore, but it did require smooshing this torque arm just to get a little clearance. When I did that, what I discovered was with the stock tire size, that the tire came out a little further, and so this fender is bobbed. All right, so this fender just had the bottom inch of it cut off, and I did a tidy job of it, but you can see it's not exactly the way it was when it was original. This wheelbase is about an inch longer than stock as a result of the use of that 1100F. These are Icon 7610 shocks. They're adjustable for damping. These are 1,000 times better than anything that was on a stock CBX. These are great fit. These are great match. The fork was also massaged. It still has its air caps, but it has two things. It has Race Tech internals with 15 weight oil and springs appropriate for a 200 and something pound guy, cough. And that fork brace is a Tim's CBX knockoff unit. And it's not an original, or it's not a super brace, and it works great. It took me a while to get it perfectly aligned so that, you know, the fork action was really good, but it is, and it works fine. The front end is very solid for one of these bikes. These brakes, twin pot brakes from 900F, the rotors and the calipers are kind of a pair you need to use along with a bracket. They were drilled, and actually I think these were ground as well by True Disc when I built the bike. The valve cover has a ceramic coating on it. It's beautiful. Maintenance free, looks great, a little bit higher bling factor. 5-row oil cooler, as was appropriate for this bike. And a lot of the parts, a lot of the chrome that you see was re-chromed. I had never dropped this bike in 15 years, and it shows no evidence of being dropped prior. So there's no scuffs on the underside. The fork finish, that's a wrinkle powder coat. And these wheels also, these are also a non-original wheel. I had these powder coated, including the rivets, which is going to make some people swoon. And I had these lips here done to like a sisal polish. These were done to like a light polish. I think it looks fantastic. It's not original. The bolts, as a consequence of powder coating, I think the bolts had to be replaced. The Honda don't take them off bolts started to get loose and rattly, and so I replaced them. They're actually Honda bolts, but those are not the original bolts that assembled this wheel. It's fine. It's totally fine. The wheel is true. What else? There are non-stock fasteners. I have socket head cap screws, which I thought were blingy and cool at the time, and you know, that's kind of what I was doing. I used them here on the horn as well, which doesn't quite have a stock appearance. It was powder coated because the chrome was punky. The turn signals in the headlight are all LEDs, and other than being way more visible in traffic, the big thing about that is that it is, you know, it's brighter and it uses a lot less energy. Turn signals, running lights on these bikes, also LEDs, and they come off and on like really crisply. You can see, if you're familiar with these, this is a little different than stock. Definitely helps the visibility. The big deal is, though, these are running lights on this bike, and you saved a meaningful amount of energy by converting those to LED. Let me see, what else? Sport kit parts up here. That's a European switch, which lets me turn off my headlight. That's kind of hard to find. That came from Europe. This was relined. I had trouble with this when I first built these brakes, and I couldn't get it to seal, and I finally gave up, and I sent this to a place called Apple Hydraulic around New York that I don't recommend because they were tough on the finish, but they relined it with either stainless steel or bronze. This bike has the best brakes of any CBX that I have ever ridden, any kind. Pro Link, twin shock, doesn't matter, has the best brakes. Yeah, excluding those bikes with like crazy GSXR stuff. These gauges were restored twice. The first time they were done by Tim's CBX, bless their hearts, and all the faceplates bubbled. I sent them off to a gentleman named Mac Walker in South Africa. kind of at the beginnings of COVID, and they got stuck there with him for no fault of his, but they came back and they're beautiful. They work perfectly. The needles don't jump. They're accurate. These work really well, and the voltmeter is actually accurate for what's going on with the wiring on the bike. Like I say, kept the air caps, but I don't use any air, and then the Race Tech does the damping. It's better. The paint work was done prior to me. The gentleman I bought it from had the bike repainted, and I would describe it as A-, B+. There are teeny little scuffs, like from belt buckles or knees and some spots. I think most of them would actually buff out if you really went after it. There are other little teeny marks on the bike. I don't know where this came from. You know, there's evidence on the bike of a bike that was ridden and loved because I rode it and I loved it. Tire date codes are from 2019 and 18. They're great. They're fine. There's no cracks, but they might be a little old for your preference, but they work great. Shinko Tour Masters, which I think are great tires for these bikes. Okay, I'm thinking I'm running out of things to tell you about, so I'm going to try an honest-to-God super cold start. I've been traveling and everything else, so I haven't been on the bike for literally months. I did open the petcock, and I did hit the accelerator pump a few times. So this is a honest to gosh, haven't started it. Stone cold. Whoops, turn off that turn signal. Cold start. Oh, my diode's bad. I gotta pull the clutch in. I could have got that sooner. Oh, I didn't even choke it. There you go. That was cold with no choke, but I am in Arizona. This is a great starting CBX. All right, recent service. So, teeny bit of smoke there, right? Old bike patina. That's like 30 seconds after start. Okay, so this bike just had its valves adjusted and it just had the carburetor synced. Oh, I should mention it has a ProLink clutch. These things always sound like a clatter on these videos, but this is really a pretty quiet CBX, especially with that ProLink clutch. Okay, world, I know this is a long video. Like I said, I never thought I'd sell this bike, but it's time. Someone else will love it. Someone else will love it. I love it. Someone else will love it too. So, yeah, I want to represent this honestly. I want the new owner to know what they're getting and really enjoy it. So I hope you feel like you have a picture of it. Oh, I did take the auto valve off, so you got to do that. So yeah, please buy it. It's a great bike. Please buy it and ride it and enjoy it.